Hello and welcome to Top Story. A big day for the environmental movement in France today as President Nicolas Sarkozy prepares to launch his master plan for a green revolution. Sarkozy is due to speak in Paris at the end of an intensive two-day summit of environmentalists, scientists, farmers and leaders of industry. Expectations in France are high after weeks of preparation for the meeting, and Sarkozy's promise during the election campaign earlier this year to reconcile ecology and economic development. Al Gore, the former US Vice President and winner of this year's Nobel Peace Prize for his campaign to halt climate change, is among the guests. On Wednesday night, thousands of people in France joined the Eiffel Tower in Paris in switching off their lights for a 5-minute gesture of solidarity with the planet. Environmentalists are calling for France to commit itself to a 30% cut in carbon emissions by 2030, but are warning too that France still has a long way to go to catch up with the rest of Europe on environmental control. Well, joining me now to discuss the importance of President Sarkozy's speech is Laure Nouala, a specialist on environmental issues at the Libération newspaper. Thanks very much for being on Top Story. President Sarkozy has made sustainable development one of his priorities over the last few months. Can we expect, though, dramatic new initiatives today?
As you said, he's going to launch a green revolution. I would say that we have to wait for it before we can think about it, because, it's very difficult because there has been, in this French history, previous plan, climate plan, things like that, and we still don't see the solutions or the practical solutions. I would say that we are in a kitchen. We have a lot of ingredients on the table, and regularly we put the ingredients back to the fridge. So now I would like to know if we will keep the ingredients to cook something good.
Well, to pick up on what you've just been saying, some of the ingredients are a freeze on new motorway and airport construction and a special tax on heavy trucks.
No way.
It doesn't sound like enough to me, does it?
No way. Because this is one of their tricks. They said there would be freezing of motorway, blah, blah, blah. No way. If you look at it deeply in the text, you can see there will be a freeze unless there is a congestion, unless you have a local interest, unless you have a security interest. So when you put all these unless things, exceptions, you keep the motorway buildings on the way,
That transport is a big polluter in France, isn't it? And there's been talk of cutting back on roadway emissions by 22%. But is that going to happen, do you think?
Transport is an emission sector like anywhere else in the world. It's like 25% of greenhouse emission gas, okay? So you have to depollute people's minds, not depollute only motorways or vehicles. You have to depollute people's mind, and you have to make people rethink about the way they go to one place to another. And in France, we have one chance. We have trains, a lot of trains, high-speed trains, and we can do something different than take a plane from Paris to Toulouse or Lyon. We can do different. We have alternatives, so we can work on this.
Laure, during President Sarkozy's electoral campaign, he spoke about changing the consciousness of the French people on the issue of the environment. How serious, though, do you think he is? We're several months into his presidency now. Have you seen anything to suggest that he really is serious about a green revolution?
I don't know. I know one thing, that this is that ecological revolution, if we need one, if we want to perform an ecological revolution, it's not, you cannot combine it with economic development. So is the president of economical development, is the president of growth, and the ecological revolution needs to rethink about the growth, what kind of growth we would like to have. So I'm not sure. I really don't know. I'm just a journalist. I want to wait for before I can think about it.
Well, he's been talking about combining environmental protection with economic growth. This was the question for him and for all French people: is it possible to achieve the two things together? Does one have to be sacrificed if the other is to be achieved?
That's the aim of the problem. That's the heart of the problem, and nobody wants to think about it in this unidentified, in this institutional object that is the Grenelle. We don't want to think about it. We just want to say we can build a green revolution, a green growth, a green tide, as the West Coast does it in the United States. But it's not only to sell more things because it is organic or green. It's not this thing. This is different. I'm not sure we're going to go deep into this kind of question.
France does rather lag behind the rest of Europe, though, doesn't it, when it comes to environmental protection?
True. Yeah, true. Before we want to do the Grenelle, before we want to make decisions, because the president is going to cut off the issue, today about the carbon tax and things like that. Before we want to do that, we should implement environmental laws that come from European Commissions. What we don't know, and that's why we pay a lot of amount fines because of that. So we should think about that before. Yeah.
One of the suggestions that's been made by environmentalists in France, in particular by Nicolas Hulot, who's a prominent environmentalist in France, a presidential candidate himself, of course, is that there should be a carbon tax. Now, do you think that's an idea that the French government is likely to take on board?
I'm not sure the French government is going to have the guts to implement such a tax. You need guts to do that.
Why do you think that?
Why? Because we are in France. It's called a country in faillite. How do you say that? I don't know. We don't have money anymore, and that is what we're being told. And they don't want to annoy French people with another tax. And this is a highly taxed country. So. How can you do? You have to put a price on the carbon if you don't want people to go on and use fossil energy again and again. So how are they going to do that? I don't know. I'm not sure they're going to have the guts about that. But I hope I'm going to be wrong.
Okay, that's all we have time for today. Thanks to Laure Nouala of Libération. Join us again tomorrow for another edition of Top Story. Goodbye.